Next, this is the second part of the discussion on negotiable instruments law. Okay? In your section 1 of the negotiable instruments law, you can find the shortcut or the keyword WPOA. Alam nyo na yan. Okay? Isa-isahin natin. Let's go with the W, or it must be in writing and signed by the maker or the drawer. Okay? When we say it must be in writing, okay, it must be in writing, sabi. It can either be printed in ink or in pencil, and it may be written in any material that substitutes paper like cloth, leather, or parchment. Okay? Remember that in your section 191 of the NIL, it provides that the word written includes printed and writing includes print. Okay? Another is that it must be signed by the maker or the drawer. Okay? The signature, remember guys that the signature may be in one's handwriting, printed, engraved, lithograph, or photograph, so long as they are adopted as the signature of the signer. What is important? Okay, remember, ang importante is that the maker or the drawer use what he affixes as his own signature for authentication purposes. So, kung ang signature niya is cross, or kung period, or comma, or exclamation point, as long as that the maker or the drawer, okay, he adapted such writing as his signature, then it can be used as his own signature for authentication. So let's give an example. So for example, si John borrowed a sum of money amounting to 5,000 from Pedro, as evidenced by a promissory note executed by John, okay? Executed by, let's say, by X as the maker. So again, John borrowed a sum of money from Pedro amounting to 5,000 pesos as evidenced by promissory note executed by X as the maker. All of the requisites of negotiability are present in the note except that John did not affix his usual signature thereon, as John was ailing at that time. Okay, may sakit daw si John. He was only able to put the X, okay, letter X, in the blank space meant for the signature of the maker. Question: is the requisite that the instrument must be signed by the maker complied with? The answer is yes. Okay, as long as, remember the explanation kanina. Okay, if the letter X is intended by the signer, or it was adopted as the signature of the signer, then the letter X is sufficient to comply with the requirement that the instrument must be signed by the maker. It appears in the given case, okay, that the letter X was adopted by John with the intent to authenticate the instrument. Okay, always remember that it is not necessary that the instrument is the usual signature of the maker. For example, ang pangalan ni John is John Christopher Malabanan. Kung lahat ng signature, lahat ng documents before siya nagkasakit, sinusulat niya ang John Christopher Malabanan, di ba, ang haba-haba. Tapos, nung na-hospital siya, is, ang naisulat niya lang is letter X, okay? As long as that is there is an intent to authenticate the instrument, then that is considered to be complied or sufficiently complied the requirements in your section 1. Another requirement is, let's go with letter U. Diba? Tapos na tayo sa it must be in writing and signed by the maker or the drawer. We proceed with letter U, or it must contain an unconditional promise or order to pay some certain in money. Accordingly, okay, what is a promise or order to pay? Okay, a promise in a promissory note is the undertaking made by the maker to pay a sum certain in money to the pay or to the holder. Okay, the order in a bill, okay, yung order sa isang bill is a command made by the drawer addressed to the drawee, ordering the drawee to pay the pay or the holder a sum certain in money. So, again, sino ang nag-order? Okay? Ang nag-order, remember guys, that ang nagko-command is the drawer. Sinasabihan niya yung drawee na bayaran nung drawee yung payee. So, sino ang magbabayad? It's the drawee. Sino ang mababayaran? It's the payee or the holder. Kung sino ang may hawak ng instrument, siya ang mababayaran. Question. Kailangan po bang nakasulat lagi ang salitang promise or order doon sa instrument? Sabi ng batas, hindi po. Okay? The word promise or order need not appear in the instrument to satisfy the requirements of Section 1 of the NIL. Example, bigyan ko kayo ng example. An acknowledgement may become a promise by the addition of words by which a promise or of payment is naturally implied, such as payable, payable on a given day, payable on demand, paid when called for. Okay? Those are the examples. Next. Always remember that the promise or order must be unconditional. Ano tong sinasabing ng batas na unconditional? Okay? Unconditional must be unqualified. Okay? So, an unqualified order or promise to pay is unconditional within the meaning of NIL, although it may be coupled with, okay, an indication of a particular fund out of which reimbursement is to be made, or a particular account to be debited with the amount, or a statement of the transaction which give rise to instrument. Example, an instrument that contains the following: per contract of sale dated January 1, 2003. So, when is the instrument conditional? Kailan ba nagiging conditional ang isang instrument, ma'am? Okay? Number 1, when an order or promise to pay out of a particular fund. And number 2, when the instrument is payable upon contingency. Okay? Or the happening of an event does not cure the defect. Remember that one. The happening of the event does not cure the defect in case the instrument is payable upon contingency. Question. Is a promissory note wherein the maker promises to pay as soon as his means permit him to do so negotiable? Ang isang promissory note daw, sa isang promissory note, ang nakalagay doon, as magbabayad ako ng utang ko pag may pera na ako, or pag kaya ko nang magbayad. Is that negotiable? Is that promissory note negotiable? Ang sabi ng batas, hindi po. The phrase, as soon as his means permit him to do so, renders the promise conditional. Okay? Remember that in a negotiable instruments law, dapat po unconditional yung promise or yung order. Since it's a promissory note, the promise must be unconditional promise. It is, however, considered to be an obligation with a period. Remember that one. Okay, next. Bigyan ko kayo ng cases para medyo maintindihan natin. So, a problem. A treasury warrant was issued by Mr. Barry in his capacity as disbursing officer of the goods administration, a government instrumentality. The warrant states that it is payable for additional cash advances for the goods program campaign in Tuguegarao City, and the amount stated therein is payable from the appropriation of goods administration. The warrant is now in the hands of Mr. Barry, who claims to be the holder in due course. Can Mr. Barry be considered a holder in due course? The answer is no. Okay. Mr. Barry is not a holder in due course. Bakit po? Okay? He cannot be considered a holder in due course because the warrant is not negotiable. The promise to pay is conditional. Bakit, ma'am? Because the sum is payable out of a particular fund. That is the appropriation for goods administration. That is the case of, example, that is a case of Benjamin Abubakar versus the Auditor General, GR number L-1405, decided on July 31, 1948. Another case. We are almost done with the first part of the discussion. We proceed with the payable in sum certain in money. Okay? Always remember that money need not be a legal tender. Okay? An instrument is negotiable although the amount to be paid is expressed in currency that is not legal tender so long as it is expressed in money. Example, payable in yen. Payable in Korean won. Mga ganyan. Okay? Under the Republic Act number 8183, the agreement to pay in a foreign currency is valid. Okay? So, the sum payable is sum certain within the meaning of the NIL, although it is to be paid with interest or by stated installments or by stated installments with provision that upon default in payment of any installments or of interest, the whole shall become due. And of course, with exchange, whether at fixed rate or at a current rate, or with cost of collection or an attorney's fee in case payment shall not be made at maturity. Kindly read section 2 of the NIL. So next, when does an instrument become payable on demand or at a fixed determinable future time? Of course, obviously, kailan bang demand? That is contained in your section 7 of the NIL. When it is expressed to be payable on demand or at a site or on presentation. Or number 2, in which no time for payment is expressed. Pag wala daw nakalagay na time or kung kailan babayaran, it is considered to be payable on demand. And lastly, where an instrument is issued, accepted, or endorsed when overdue. Okay? It is regards that the person issuing, accepting, or endorsing it is payable on demand. Okay? Next, paano naman magiging payable at a determinable future time? Okay? It is determinable future time, okay? When section 4, okay? Section 4 nakalagay at a fixed period after date or site. Example, 20 days after date. Number 2, on or at a fixed or determinable future time is specified therein. And lastly, on or at a fixed period after the occurrence of a specified event which is certain to happen, although the time of happening be uncertain. Example, payable within 7 days from the death of Mr. X. We have the different clauses in your negotiable instruments. We have your acceleration clause and security clause and your extension clause. Section 2 contains the acceleration clause. Ano nga ba to? The negotiability of the instrument is not affected even if it is to be paid by stated installments with provision that upon default in payment of any installment or of interest, the whole shall become due. That is your acceleration clause. Section 2. Okay? Ano naman ang insecurity clause? Insecurity clause, okay? These are the provisions in the contract which allows the holder to accelerate payment if he deems himself insecure. Okay? The instrument is rendered to be non-negotiable if there is insecurity clause. And lastly, we have the extension clause. Okay? The extension clause, okay, in an instrument, if the instrument is payable at a definite time, if by its term it is payable at a definite time subject to extension at the option of the holder, okay, or the extension to a further definite time at the option of the maker or acceptor, or automatically upon or after the specified act or event. Last, payable to order or bearer. An instrument that is payable to a specified person, okay, or specific person or entity, the instrument becomes not negotiable because the NIL requires that the instrument must be payable to order or bearer. Okay? Paano natin gagawin yan? Okay, mamaya I will explain it to you. Question: is a certificate of time deposit wherein it is stated this is to certify that bearer has deposited the amount of, example, 1,000 pesos, repayable to the said depositor, negotiable? The answer there is, okay, there is no negotiation in that case because it is negotiable. It is negotiable being payable to bearer. However, okay, if this becomes certificate of time deposit, okay, but not endorsed as a security, there is no negotiation. At most, the holder would be a holder for value up to the extent of his lien. Remember, in that case, okay, if the statement is this one, this is to certify that the bearer has deposited the amount of 1,000, repayable to depositor, negotiable. Negotiable siya, of course, kasi nga payable to bearer siya. Pero kung isa siyang certificate of time deposit tapos na-deliver siya pero hindi siya na-endorse, and of course there is no negotiation, okay, the holder would be a holder only up to the value of his lien. Okay, so when is an instrument payable to bearer? That is contained in your section 9 of the NIL. There are 5 instances. Number 1, when it is expressed to be so payable. Number 2, when it is payable to a person named therein or bearer. When it is payable to order of a fictitious or non-existing person, and such fact was known to the person making it so payable. Number 4, when the name of the payee does not purport to be the name of the person. Example, pay to cash. Yan. Bearer yung instrument, mga yan ha. And number 5, when the only or last endorsement is an endorsement in blank. Okay? Note, however, okay, yung sa may fictitious or non-existing person. In such case, the person did not be actually fictitious or non-existent. Hindi siya kailangang actually fictitious or non-existent. It can still be payable to bearer even if the payee is existing. Okay, if the maker or the drawer does not intend the payee to have any right over the instrument. So, kailan naman nagiging order instrument? Okay, tapos na tayo sa payable to bearer. Nakalagay yan sa section 9 ninyo. Basahin nyo yung provisions ninyo. Doon naman sa order, okay, doon naman sa order instrument, section 8, okay, if the payee, okay, ulitin natin, sorry. There are only 2 ways by which an instrument can be made payable to order under section 8. Okay? The instrument can either be payable to the order. Dapat meron yun order of a specified person. Example, pay to the order of Juan de la Cruz or to a specified person or his order. Pay to Juan de la Cruz or order. Dapat meron lagi yung salitang order. Order. Hindi pwedeng pay to Juan de la Cruz. Hindi pa pwede yun. Kasi, specified na yung person. Dapat to the order. Okay, ganun na. To the order of Juan de la Cruz. O kaya, pay to Juan de la Cruz or order. Dapat ganun. Okay. Section 8 of the NIL likewise identifies the persons who can be designated as payees in an order instrument. The person to whose order the instrument may be made payable. The instrument may be payable to the order of the payee who is not the maker, drawer, or drawee, the drawer or the maker, the drawee, two or more payees jointly, or one or more, or some of the several payees, and the holder of an office for the time being. Nakalagay lahat yan sa section 8. Pakibasa na lang po. So, I think wala naman nata akong naiwang Question. Can a bill of exchange or a promissory note qualify as a negotiable instrument if it is not dated? Okay? The answer there is yes. Section 6, okay, provides that the negotiability of an instrument is not affected if it is not dated. The date of issuance is not requisite of negotiability prescribed in Section 1. Okay? In that case, of course, it's payable on demand. Next, how about if next question. Can a bill of exchange or promissory note qualify as a negotiable instrument if the day or and the month is indicated but not the year of its maturity? Okay? The answer is no, because absence of the year of maturity affects the negotiability. The evident intent is to make the instrument payable on a fixed date, but the year was omitted, hence the time for payment is not determinable in this case. Okay? Paano naman if it is payable to cash? Okay? The answer there is yes. Di ba kakasabi ko lang kanina, bearer instrument yan. Under Section 9 of the NIL, an instrument is payable to bearer if the name of the payee does not purport to be the name of any person. The name of the payee cash is an inanimate object, hence it is a bearer instrument. Next, how about it names two alternative drawees? Oh, of course, kakasabi ko lang ulit yun kanina. The answer there is no, because Section 128 of the NAL provides a bill may not be addressed to two or more drawees in the alternative or in succession. Okay? Otherwise, there is no certainty as to the person to whom the instrument may be presented for payment. Lastly, how about if it does not state the place where it is made or payable? Of course, the answer there is yes. Makikita nyo ba yan sa NIL sa Section 1? Di ba? The negotiability of instrument is not affected if it does not state the place where it is made or where it is payable. All that is required under the Section 1. Okay? Yung Section 1, kung anong lang nakalagay doon, yun lang ang importante. Kung outside ng Section 1, then it is not negotiable. Okay? So, I have no further discussion for the following. So, next meeting, we will discuss the different kinds of endorsements, holders, okay? Holder for volume, mga ganyan, holder in due course, forgery, okay? And the rights of the holder in due course. So, that ends our topic for today. This is the second part of the negotiable instruments law. I hope you learned something, and paulit-ulit nyo lang tong pakinggan para mas maintindihan nyo yung lesson. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for listening. Thank you for having a time with me, and have a nice day.